Blog Talk Radio.
Like the sky, your spirit is one with me. Your wings span the mighty ocean. Your eyes see everything. The slightest of your motions can make the continents ring. Yet in all your might and glory, vanished from the skies, leaving just another story, missing man-made lies. They tell of how you fell from the sky, your once proud beauty.
All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Free American Hour. I'm your host, Clay Douglas. And my guest today is Dr. AnnBlakeTracy, drugawareness.org. Hello, Ann, how are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. And I hope you got my email and my links to the story that I put up on Veterans Today about Donna and Mark Taylor. Now, you've been involved with them almost since the beginning. First of all, give me a little bit of your history. This is kind of a rare thing for me, and I rarely bother to talk to doctors, but I've heard a lot of good things about you.
Yeah, most of them, some of them unfortunately have got their eyes closed for too much, including their own profession. But then, just in November, the Atlantic Monthly magazine ran an article that would explain why their eyes are so closed. They did an interview with the doctor from Greece, who's considered one of the top experts on medical research in the world. And according to him, I mean, he's so well respected, he gets 1,000 requests to lecture from universities and medical schools, other medical groups, 1,000 requests per year. This man specializes in medical research, and yet he says that at this point he would estimate that 90% of medical research is bogus due to the fact that it's influenced by the industry. The industry that, of course, is going to make so much money off of it. Therefore, these doctors are relying on research that's 90% incorrect and 10% correct. Would you take your car to a mechanic that was relying on 90% of the information on your car that was incorrect? That's scary. He said he doesn't know if medical research can even recover from this.
All right, I'm going to bring up a caller here, because I know the caller, Stan Hess. Hello, Stan. We're talking with Dr. AnnBlakeTracy, who is very familiar with the Donna Taylor. Stan Hess has been calling the covering the trial of Edgar Steele, whose wife has the same attorney as Donna Taylor's current attorney. Stan, did you have something you wanted to bring up today?
Well, I just I don't want to interrupt your interview here, but I just wanted to let people know that the next trial date for Edgar Steele will be in Boise, Idaho, starting on Tuesday, April 26th, and that the trial or the sentencing hearing for Larry Fairfax, who was the government informant in this case, and I don't want to get into that, but I was under the impression that was going to be yesterday up here, but actually it's going to be after the Edgar Steele trial is concluded, and that will be in May. So we won't know about Larry Fairfax and what time he gets until then.
Well,
but anyway,
that's a move. That's a move by the government to prevent Edgar Steele's defense attorney from bringing the guy that did all of the planting of the bombs and everything else in their cars. They want to try him after they try to railroad Edgar Steele.
Exactly.
All right, Stan.
Okay.
Thank you for your update.
Thank you.
Keep me
Okay,
updated.
thanks,
I'll bring you back up
Bye.
and schedule you on my show. Thank you very much.
Take care.
All right. And it just I don't know. I don't think it's just me. I don't think it's just my guests on the show that are having these problems. But Edgar Steele came on my show. He had a problem. Donna Taylor came on my show. She's got problems. It's a kind of strange. And but tell me again about this. I've asked what's happening with Donna Taylor right now, or Mark Taylor. He's been put back into a mental institution. They said he was severely disabled. Didn't say whether it was mental or physical. I mean, and you would have to expect him to be a little disabled after being shot 7 times at Columbine. After the police allowed him to lay there and bleed to death for 2 hours. Now, am I right? Is this just the way the medical profession works now? And I identify a lot with this because somebody tried to kill me in 2004, and they rushed me to the hospital and kept me drugged for 3 months on the same thing they gave Mark Taylor. That was Haldol, I believe. Your comments, Doctor?
A good way to make a lot of money.
They ran up a $750,000 hospital bill for me, and maybe that's just what it costs to have 3 broken ribs and a broken collarbone. They said I had a severe head injury. I said I had severe brain injury. They told my family to get guardianship of me, to arrange for long-term care and make sure he takes this Depakote. My basic response to that was the only medicine I need is a joint and a Harley. Leave me alone. Which is why I think I'm still alive today. But
yeah.
Why were they feeding? Why were they giving? This is back in 2006. They picked him up on some kind of charge, and put him in some kind of hospital in 2006. And you were there, weren't you? You were involved in that at that time.
Back in 2006. Yeah, I do remember. I was at that point. I was aware of his. I almost said incarceration.
It is. You were locked up. I mean, I woke up in the hospital, St. Joseph's Hospital in Phoenix, and I was in a jail cell. I asked my son, why am I in jail? Why am I in jail? He said, oh, you're not in jail, Dad. It's just a hospital room with little bitty windows.
Wow.
And they didn't lock the door, so I could still walk out of my room, out of my cell, into the halls of the hospital, and have my coffee and all that. But $750,000 for a hospital bill for 4 months in the hospitals, in 3 hospitals, for 3 broken ribs, and Mark's been basically incarcerated this time for a year.
I wasn't even aware until just a month or so ago that he was. So, sorry, I'm just so busy with so many cases. They're just absolutely everywhere around the world. Everywhere. They never, ever end. Mark's case is one of thousands upon thousands of these. And it's interesting that Mark's the only one that had the courage to sue the drug company for causing Columbine. There were several other families lined up to sue as well, but they were scared off by the drug company attorneys who told them that they intended to take everything they had if they lost the case. And they all stood back and said, we've already lost our loved ones. We can't afford to lose anything more. And Mark was the only one that had the courage to go ahead and go after them. He knew it was happening elsewhere.
In my article, I say, you know, there's two things that are possible here. That they came in this whole thing that's happening right now, what happened before, is because the drug companies were trying to intimidate and stop anything, as just as you said, and or this is just business as usual. This is what they're doing to everybody, and I've got case after case. I don't know if you're aware of my friend Paul Pantone, who invented the GEAT device. They put him in a mental institution for 3.5 years. It took us 3.5 years to get him released because he wouldn't sign over his patents.
I do know Paul, and I am aware of his case, and that is exactly what they did.
I had someone from the medical profession get on my case for not telling both sides of the story. I said, I've been an investigative reporter for 20 years. I always tell both sides of the story. But in this particular case, the hospital system, Magellan Hospital Systems in Phoenix, wouldn't answer my calls, wouldn't let me talk to anybody, wouldn't let me talk to Mark, and they cut off communication between Mark and his brother, and his mother and his brothers. Denied communication. How? I mean, my God, the governor of Arizona her son is being held in a mental institution, and she talks with him on a daily basis.
The governor's son?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
Yes, ma'am. The governor's son.
Doing this to everyone. Your listeners should probably think a little bit about these drugs. It would help them to understand why they're doing it.
Well, tell me about that. I mean, they had Mark on Haldol. They had me on Haldol. They told my family, oh, he's got a... And they tried to do the same thing with Donna. They tried to say Donna's crazy, that Mark doesn't want to be in touch with her. They destroyed my family, and they're trying to do the same thing to Donna Taylor. Tell me about this Haldol. What is that? And the drug they wanted me to take at home was called Depakote. I read the contraindications on it. Figured they were trying to give me a heart attack and wouldn't take it.
Well, they don't start you on drugs like Haldol generally. What they're starting people with are antidepressants. And then they go to the antipsychotics, because antidepressants work on serotonin. That's why the title of my book is Prozac, Panacea, or Pandora, and then the subtitle, Our Serotonin Nightmare. When you understand that serotonin is the chemical in the brain that LSD and PCP work on to produce their hallucinogenic effects, then you'll begin to understand that what these drugs do is gradually, over time, they block your brain from being able to metabolize serotonin. If you can't break it down where it turns into melatonin and some of the other things that you need, then it begins to back up and you gradually begin to have LSD and PCT-like effects. So it appears that you are the one going crazy, that it's not a drug effect. So what they've done is found a gradual way to produce LSD and PCT reactions. Why would they do that? Probably because these drugs fit to a T. 16 of the 17 points the CIA had for a perfect mind control drug.
Now, when I was in the hospital, after I got off all the drugs, I had two guys, blue pinstripe suits, show up and asked me, "Clay, have you been hallucinating?" And I had been, Ann, but I hadn't told anybody, not my family, not my doctor, not my wife, not my sons. And I said, "Yeah, a little bit. Why, who are you?" "Well, we're CIA, and you can thank us for that." "Yeah, what are you doing in this country, and you know, why are you messing with me?" "Well, we don't like you publishing that motorcycle magazine, and you got a big audience, a big readership. We don't like that." And my response to him was, "Does the term tough shit mean anything to you? Get out of my hospital. You ain't even supposed to be in this country, if you're CIA," which they probably won't. And as they were leaving, I hollered out to them, "Hey, boys, thanks, listen, man, thanks for the high, but frankly, it wasn't nearly as good as that acid you brought in the 60s.
Yeah.
And I believe that was a whole psychological operation. They've been flooding the CIA and the Mossad, or the Russian Mafia, or the KGB, whatever name you want to give these one world government types. What do you want to call them? Communist or fascism? Fascist, it doesn't really matter. They are controlling all of the illegal drugs here, and they made the most productive, healthy plant in the world illegal for us to possess or grow here in America. That would be hemp. And meantime, in my book, Mystery Babylon, I've got the information about the government's drug running programs called Operation Watchtower, and that's the one you didn't hear about. The one you heard about was Iran-Contra. Same type of operation, different people. And I've blown the whistle on that, which is, of course, probably one of the reasons they want to put me in the hospital, want to take me out of circulation. But
well, are you aware that they took 80% of their initial budget, put it in a brown paper bag when they first opened? They took all that money, put it in a brown paper bag, and had two agents take it to Switzerland to buy up all the LSD that they had, because they were the ones that put it out in 1943.
Right, Sandoz.
And when they got there, they found out that Sandoz only had just a few ounces, and that wasn't enough. They wanted to use it for a mind control drug. So they turned around and came back to the U.S., and guess where they went?
Osley?
Straight to Eli Lilly, the makers of Prozac.
Ooh.
And they said, we need this in a synthetic form because, we can't use it for a mind control agent unless we've got a good supply. Lilly offered to deliver it by the truckload. They got their patent on the drug in February of 1956. And just before that, just 2 months before that, I believe it was Life magazine, which was like People is now, ran a huge article. Now, keep in mind that Sandoz, when they put the drug out in 1943, they put it out as a chemical that would induce insanity. And the reason they thought that they could put it out for that is because once people took it and went insane, it would help scientists to understand how insanity is produced. Of course, you can tell that the line did not form of guinea pigs ready and willing to take the drug. Nobody wanted to line up to show the world how you become insane. So the drug just sat there and did nothing for all those years. Well, when this article came out in Life magazine about this new wonder drug that Eli Lilly had, and they called it that, it was supposed to be a miracle because it was going to cure mental illness and cure alcoholism and aid in psychoanalysis.
This is what LSD was supposed to do?
Yeah. So this is the new marketing plan for LSD. It's all marketing. And that's all it's been ever since. Sometimes I think they looked at all of their old files on LSD and said, why don't we call it Prozac this time? But what they did is they found the slow fuse way in which to produce the same effects. And then all these other companies followed suit, and now we've got bipolar disorder at a rate that we have never ever seen. It increased by 4,000% just from over an 8-year period from 96 to 2004. 4,000% increase in the diagnosis of bipolar because these drugs will produce a manic psychosis faster than anything we know of. And then they put out the new antipsychotics, the new atypical antipsychotics, which is what they put Mark on after they gave him an antidepressant. And due to so many other people, the new atypical antipsychotic is almost like a mix of an antidepressant with your older antipsychotics like Haldol that you're talking about. You get a double whammy with these.
Why would they? Supposedly, I had a severe brain injury, and I'm sure I wasn't wearing a helmet. Still don't, and I'm sure I had a head injury. But why would they put me on Haldol? I can understand the morphine, and I can handle the morphine. They told me, "Wow, you were really one mean son of a gun, man. You pulled pictures off walls and beat us over the head with it." I said, "And nobody told you I almost killed the first person that gave me a Valium? You know, or you people, that shouldn't that have been a little clue to you? You had me on the wrong medication?"
Exactly. No, they should never give someone who's had a head injury these kinds of drugs. Ever, ever, ever. Because you've already got an injury to the brain. You don't need a chemical that's going to injure the brain also on top of that.
Now, my wife, you know, she and my sons ran my magazine, one of them, while I was in the hospital. And I got no memory of that 3 months, so I don't know what happened to them. And I don't know what I said or what I did, but, you know, her statement, well, Clay, you just need to take this Depakote. No, I'm not taking that. It knocks me out. No, I'm not taking that at all, period. Well, they saved your life. Those doctors saved your life. They didn't save my life. They were trying to kill me. And I, you know, was that... Now, this is the problem with me, Dr. Tracy. Was that a head injury? Was I simply, you know, crazy from a head injury? Or was I accurate in the fact that they were trying to overdose me? And to me, that's really the only thing, that's the only mistake that they really made, was trying to overdose Clay Douglas. I'm an old 60s biker, man, you know. So.
Well, I know antidepressants will produce LSD flashbacks. I don't know that about how, though, but it really wouldn't surprise me a heck of a lot to find that out as well. So that could easily explain a lot of the stuff that you were going through. But it is tragic. They do go in and they convince families that they're helping. That's why they created NAMI, a National Alliance for the Mentally Ill. It's supposed to be a support group for families and patients, and 80% of their budget comes directly from drug companies. And yet, all you hear when you go to one of their meetings is, keep your loved one on these drugs, keep your loved one on these drugs.
Now, Dr. Tracy, I was raised by my mother and grandmother. And we had a weekly trip. We took a weekly trip to Dr. Gibbs' office.
Weekly?
Weekly.
Okay.
My mother and grandmother went to the doctor on a weekly basis. It might have been only. I'm sorry. It might have been only monthly, but I came to realize, much later, that they were simply going there to get their drugs. My grandmother was on sleeping pills. I thought she was just feeble until I took one of her Secanols.
Oh my God.
My mother was on pain pills until she died, and she died at about 80 years old. And they went to the doctor to get those pain pills. Over half of Americans are on some kind of pharmaceutical medications, aren't they?
Oh, I think it's well over half. Yeah, it's really scary. People don't even realize what's happening to them. And you look at brainwave patterns. I've got brainwave patterns of a patient on Prozac, 31-year-old healthy male, been on Prozac for 6 months. You take a look at those brainwaves, and I got to get them scanned and get them on our website so people can see what it shows. Here this fellow is sitting talking to the people taking these brainwaves, and yet the patterns show that he's in a total anesthetic sleep state and dreaming while he talks to them. It's scary to look at. You just look at that and you go, whoa, nobody's home. But you know that half the country could be in that position at any second when they're putting our cars together, planes together, anything else that you're using together. That's scary.
Now, you can be thrown in jail for having a little bit of pot or a little bit of cocaine in your pocket. But you've got hundreds of thousands, millions of people walking around that are taking Luvox and so this other medication, Valium, crap like that. What?
Yeah, no.
I've got some.
The reason we have a drug war is to take people off all these older medications, and yes, cocaine was given as a medication. Freud was on it and had all of his patients on it. He thought it was a miracle drug. I mean, this has just been a long history of you take these drugs for a while, and then society wakes up and goes, oh, whoa, this is a bad one, and they take it off the market. Well, while it's on the market as a patented drug, the drug companies are making money hand over fist. Antidepressants alone, not even counting the antipsychotics that cost 2 to 3 times what an antidepressant does. The antidepressants bring in $86 billion a year. You then need an antipsychotic for the antidepressants. So now they're trying to get you to